Hello folks, and welcome to Jack Reviews Musicals. My name is Jack, and I'm a musical theater superfan based in St. Louis, Missouri. This is my YouTube channel where I share my thoughts on all of the musical productions I see in the St. Louis area. In this video, I will be talking about the 7th and final production of the Muny's 107th season, Jersey Boys, which played August 18th through the 24th of 2025. Jersey Boys is of course the jukebox musical biography of the Italian-American multi-platinum doo-wop band The Four Seasons, with a score of 34 songs featuring the band's most iconic songs: Sherry, Walk Like a Man, Oh What a Night, Can't Take My Eyes Off You, and so much more, including that one song where Mainskin's cover of it became a meme. I'm begging. Jersey Boys came onto the scene in 2005. After it won the Tony Award for Best Musical the following year, to use the words of Four Seasons founding member Bob Gaudio, the whole world exploded. Jersey Boys single-handedly kick-started the trend of jukebox musicals that are biographies of the artists behind the songs, including Beautiful, the Carole King musical, which is currently playing at Stages St. Louis, a production that I will be reviewing for you folks next time. These days there's so many biographical jukebox musicals, it's impossible to imagine a time when these were the outliers for what people expected jukebox musicals to be. This is the Muny's second production of Jersey Boys, the first one being in 2018, the very first production by a regional theater after the Broadway production closed, making this my second time I have seen the show. The show tells the different phases of the Four Seasons' 40-year-long career, using a different band member as the central narrator for each decade. 4 seasons, 4 narrators, 4 stories. Act 1 begins with the founder of the Four Seasons, guitarist Tommy DeVito, narrating the band's early fledgling days in the 1950s as working-class kids in the streets of New Jersey, using mob and gangster connections to perform and record in every bar basement in the area. The second half of the first act is narrated by the group's songwriter and keyboardist Bob Gaudio, who recounts the 1960s as the band's superstar era, where their records sold hundreds of millions of units. But the ending of Act 1 has the band finding out their mob ties have accrued them mountains of debt, in excess of $150,000, which leads to Act 2 beginning in the 1970s, narrated by bassist Nick Massey, who showcases the band's dark side, at least their darkest side, with their debt leading to their breakup and their falling out. But it's in the show's last half, in the 1980s, where the band's lead singer and frontman, Frankie Valli, he recounts how he recovered from not only the breakup, but multiple family tragedies, and achieved a remarkably successful solo career that's actually still going to this day. In his words, like that little bunny that's on TV. He just keeps going and going and going. Jersey Boys was the first jukebox musical to tell a true story on such a wide scope in this format. And on the one hand, this was very ambitious. For the show's creators, Marshall Brickman, Rick Ellis, and Bob Gaudio, the risk paid off quite a bit. It became a monster hit all over the world, revamped the image of the Four Seasons, and even got a film adaptation that was directed by that one guy who debated a chair in front of hundreds of people. This leads me to the other hand, where Jersey Boys was the first biographical jukebox musical, and it shows. This show tracks 40 years in the career of the Four Seasons, but the way that the book handles the passage of time was very clunky. Yes, we did have a different narrator for each decade, but they're constantly moving between locations, jumping ahead large periods of time within said decade in a matter of minutes or seconds even. And it's not well paced. The relationships the Four Seasons had that were not with each other are numerous, but not given enough time to develop, especially Frankie Valli with his daughter Francine, who tragically died of a drug overdose at the age of 22. Frankie even sings Fallen Angel as a dedication to her, but the way the song is presented, it feels like he's singing this to himself, while imagining Francine as a dancer in the dark, as it were. That brings me to another central issue that I have with Jersey Boys, which is actually an issue that I have with Dreamgirls, a show that is very similar to it. The book wasn't really able to reconcile the diegesis of the songs. Unlike Beautiful, which presents all of the songs as actual performances where the characters are aware that they're singing, Jersey Boys switches between songs that are diegetic and not. Sherry and Can't Take My Eyes Off of You are diegetic, and yet Oh What a Night and Fallen Angel aren't. I would rather have had one consistent documentary tone all the way through, like the Muny's production was trying to do, but I think there were some missed opportunities in the material to make the storytelling a lot tighter, and to have the songs better integrated. The show was so cluttered, I was having a really hard time convincing myself that the 4 seasons that we saw at the beginning of the 50s versus the end of the 80s have aged considerably. The Muny did try to nail down the show's documentary ambitions, but I think the book's clunkiness led to some confusing creative choices on the part of director Maggie Burrows, choreographer William Carlos Angulo, and musical director Paul Besainth Jr. Maggie Burrows stages much of the action on a unit set of brick-and-mortar buildings instead of the traditional scaffolding you get with a lot of productions. And certain scenes are played out on the Muny's thrust in front of painted booms of scaffolding, complete with a Jersey Boys logo emblazoned. The unit set itself, designed by Crit Robinson, was quite jumbled. The individual scenery looked fine: the bar, the studio, the facade of the bowling alley where the 4 seasons got their name, the dressing rooms on the roof of the set. It's all well and good, except they're just kind of jammed together, like puzzle pieces that don't quite fit. And it led to some awkward moments where a scene takes place on a location different from what the set is portraying, like when they switch from a bar to a courtroom. They just have a judge pop out from behind the bar like he was just coming out of Hammer Space. Now, the Muny did try to make this work by using special lights designed by Rob Denton, but the framing isn't very effective. The same could be said for the illumination of the dancers, which was severely lacking, especially in Fallen Angel and Can't Take My Eyes Off You. The overall darkness of the lighting makes William Carlos Angulo's choreography feel incongruous with the moment, as good as the actual dance steps are. Even the reveal of the silhouetted brass section dancers in Can't Take My Eyes Off You, they didn't receive the ovation that it normally gets. But that could also be because Paul Besainth Jr.'s musical direction was lacking punch. The arrangements were conducted at a volume that was underwhelming, and that translated to the harmonies of the actors playing the 4 seasons not being particularly close. The costumes by Leon Dobkowski and the wigs by Kelly Jordan struggled a bit with evoking the 40 years the story goes through. It all ends up just looking very generic, like just a bunch of wise guys in suits or street clothes most of the time. But the glittery suits on the 4 seasons were nice to look at. The Muny's shortcomings in this production were not for a lack of trying. I genuinely believe it's because the material doesn't give them a lot of room to play. Not everything in this production was just average. All around, the acting was pretty great. More than anything, Jersey Boys is an actor's musical, with its priority being to present an authentic picture of who the 4 seasons were as people, rather than just presenting a tribute band. So something that director Maggie Burrows did that I thought was brilliant was casting 4 actors who didn't give us exact impressions of the people they're portraying. Instead, she just gave them room to invoke the spirit of these real people, allowing the actors to put their own likenesses, their own idiosyncrasies into them, make them feel like real people, and that's exactly what they did. Paul David Lacerca as Frankie Valli nails his trademark falsetto voice, the voice that made the 4 seasons famous, complete with Frankie Valli's award-winning smile. Valli's arc from a naive singer willing to do anything to get famous to an artist struggling with the costs of fame, all the way to being a consummate performer wholeheartedly dedicated to his craft, was very believable under Lacerca's portrayal. But the best actor out of the 4 of them was Corey Giacoma as Nick Massey, with a hulking, quiet, authoritative presence that literally screams bassist. But again, he's authoritative. He's calculating. He doesn't make him adult. During the 70s portion of the show, the part that Massey narrates, he delivers this searing monologue confronting the band, screaming at them about all of the nonsense and frankly really disgusting things that he has had to put up with, from Tommy especially. And it was an explosion, a monologue from a quiet man snapping. It was very cathartic, so much so the monologue ended with a round of applause. Andrew Poston as Bob Gaudio was an utter delight, with a boyishness that captures the ambition of being an up-and-coming songwriter. But then that endearing, likable quality soon slithers into an opportunistic streak as he becomes more like a businessman. That was fascinating to explore. And Ryan Vasquez makes Tommy DeVito the quintessential wise guy. Intense bravado tempered by a charm and a confidence that can turn vicious on a dime. The dynamic that these four actors share was captivating. The passion and heartbreak that these actors expressed were worthy of my attention, even if the material itself was not. The performances from the rest of the cast were great too. Tristan Bedell gives a vibrant performance as Frankie Valli's first wife, Mary Delgado, doing very well to convey the mixed feelings of being married to a superstar. Mike Cefalo plays Joe Pesci, that Joe Pesci, the actor. His friendship with Tommy DeVito was the thing that brought the band together. Mike Cefalo very accurately captures Joe Pesci's high-strung speech patterns and hyperactive mannerisms, things that were present even when the Oscar winner was a much younger man. Shay Kaufman plays the band's producer, Bob Crew, a closeted gay man who gave a very understated portrayal of his snappy attitude. It felt natural for a gay man at this time in America to be presented in the way that he was. And John Leone plays the band's fixer, the mobster Chip DiCarlo, playing him with a predatory edge that always keeps you guessing whether or not the band is actually really that important to him. John Leone also plays the older version of Bob Gaudio in a really cool production choice, double casting the Four Seasons as young men and the older gentlemen who appear at the ending, where the Four Seasons are inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The video design by Kylie Alera and Greg Emetaz features the use of video recordings of the older band members introducing each decade in their history, in the form of dressing room interviews that were conducted before the induction ceremony. That was brilliant. The rest of the older band members were played by ensemble members Michael James Reed as Tommy, Drew Battles as Nick, and Jerry Vogel as Frankie. All four of these older actors were excellent, so much so that I genuinely thought that they were played by the younger actors in old age prosthetics or an AI filter. But when they actually appeared on stage at the ceremony, I was honestly surprised that they used the real older actors. The appearance of the older Four Seasons was so surprising that much of the audience was genuinely fooled. Many people actually thought that they were the real Four Seasons, alive and well today, even though only two of them are still alive. There was a standing ovation, recordings of their appearance, people snapping photos, hooting and hollering, and I joined right along with them. Even though I knew they weren't the real guys, I just had to respect that the Muny was able to pull that off. This was something that I have never seen before in any iteration of Jersey Boys. And the moment leading into the finale, Who Loves You? The older Four Seasons giving an epilogue, telling where they are, where they're gonna go from here, and then the younger Four Seasons rise up from the Muny's thrust, singing to their older selves as they are remembering who they were and where they came from. That was one of the most thrilling pieces of stagecraft I've ever witnessed. And the video design had some really cool stagecraft moments too, like the transitions between locations. They were done in sweeping pans and overhead shots, featuring scaffolding intermingling with the New Jersey Turnpike. There's live video footage of the band's breakout performances on The Ed Sullivan Show. There's even brilliant renderings of the glittery theater curtains during the band's super Superstar Medley, Ragdoll, Big Girls Don't Cry, and Walk Like a Man. And of course, there's Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, which added a lot of visual splendor to this very minimalist staging. The use of projections in this show were superb, dare I say thrilling. But as good as much of the Muny's production was, that didn't really stop me from finding a good chunk of this material a bit limp-wristed. The script was jumbled and kinda cluttered, the use of the songs was not the best that I have seen integrated even for jukebox musicals, and I don't think the Muny did enough to keep me invested for the whole runtime. But again, it wasn't for a lack of trying, but more because they didn't have a lot to work with. But the moments that did stand out, the ones where they took full advantage of the Muny's capabilities. Like again, the ending, which was simply spectacular. Those moments stood out very well, and I was glad that I saw them. The Muny's production of Jersey Boys may not have been perfect, but the moments that were really good make it clear to me that Jersey Boys is a musical that even though I don't care for it, I would not wish it out of existence. But what the hell do I know? Did you see the Muny's production of Jersey Boys? If so, what did you think about it? And what did you think overall of the Muny's 107th season? Whatever it is, whatever you think, comment below and let me know. Be sure to stay tuned for the Muny's 108th season announcement on December 1st of 2025. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss any more St. Louis musical theater reviews coming very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, long live the musical!